All right, folks, welcome in. It's another brand new video edition here of the 901 Soccer Podcast. I am your host, Lawrence Dockery. You can find me on Twitter at LDoc93. Find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. Find us on Facebook as well. All you got to do is just search 901 Soccer and we will pop right up. You can also find Bluff City Media on Twitter at BluffCity_media, Bluff City Media on Facebook. Again, just like it is with 901 Soccer on Facebook, just search Bluff City Media. They'll pop right up. You should like and follow and subscribe and all that good stuff. Same thing for the YouTube channel. If you're watching this, you're watching it on YouTube, so you probably already are subscribed to the YouTube channel. But if you aren't for whatever reason, you definitely should, because it helps me and it helps a lot of the other people that we got here at Bluff City Media. So go ahead, as all of the YouTube people like to say, you like, comment, and subscribe. This one is going to be a little bit more of an irate, irritated, frustrated, angry, pissed off episode of the 901 Soccer Podcast. I do apologize that we haven't been able to get you the episode of the 901 Soccer Podcast following 901 FC's playoff elimination at the hands of Louisville City on penalties. There were some technical difficulties that have, prevented that from being able to be a legitimate uploaded episode, and I do apologize for that. We'll be doing a season post-mortem here before too long. Don't know exactly when. I might wait until the USL season is over. I know we got the championship set. I want to say it's Phoenix against Charleston. I know for sure it's Charleston because that's our old pal Ben Pierman the GOAT. We miss Ben. So probably once the USL season is over, we will do a season review of this year's 901 FC season. A lot of good, some bad, a lot of in the middle. We'll talk about it. But I do wanted to let you know that we did record an episode following the home playoff loss to Louisville City. Unfortunately, there were some technical issues, and we're not going to be able to get it uploaded. So I do apologize for that. But if you want some more 901 FC content, just go over to the Bluff City Media website, where you can and should become an insider and subscribe to the website. We got a lot of good stuff going on over there, but specifically as it relates to Memphis 901 FC, today was the day. Today we're recording this on Monday, November the 6th. Today was the day that the long-awaited Memphis 901 FC attendance article dropped that I put together. I've been working on it for about 2 weeks, crowdsourcing ideas from you, the listeners, and I do appreciate all the responses that you guys sent, and I tried to use as many of them as I could. Most of them were pretty good. There were some that were just, 901 FC can't do anything about, and then there were some that were just incredibly self-serving and, quite frankly, obnoxious. Let's just play at Mike Rose because I live in Collierville. No, sorry, that's not how this is going to work. But the bulk of you gave actually reasonable, well thought out, legitimate, what I felt to be legitimate answers. So I do appreciate you for that. You can check that out over at bluffcitymedia.co. But the purpose of this episode is we're talking University of Memphis women's soccer. They are now hosting. It's been officially announced today that they are hosting LSU in the NCAA tournament first round over at the South Campus at Park and Getwell. Now, on the surface, that sounds like pretty good news, right? University of Memphis is hosting a home game in the NCAA tournament. That's awesome, right? And, yes, it is awesome. That's not something that anybody should complain about. I'm not going to complain about it. That's another game I get to go cover. That's a game that you, the fans, get to go see. Nothing wrong with it. In and of itself, nothing wrong with that piece of that information, but that's not the only piece of information that we're dealing with in the larger context of this thing here. And that just absolutely sounded totally dumb. And I'm sorry for that, but big picture, the University of Memphis women's team got screwed, plain and simple. They got screwed, and I'm pissed off about it. And you should all be pissed off about it too, because the Memphis women's team was 18-1 on the season. That's 18 wins and 1 loss. The 1 loss was on the road at a ranked Alabama team by a single goal. That Alabama team went to the Women's College Cup semifinals last year. So the Final Four. They went to the Final Four last year. Memphis went on the road to Tuscaloosa, lost by a single goal on a sketchy, questionable penalty call late in the game. Okay? They beat 4 Power 5 opponents. That's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 of at home, 2 on the road. They beat Ole Miss at home. They beat Ohio State, an NCAA tournament team, Ohio State. They beat them 6-1. They went on the road and beat Iowa State. They went on the road and beat Kansas State. They have the longest win streak in the country. They have won 15 consecutive games. They won the American West Division title. They won the American regular season title. They won their third straight American Conference tournament title. That's a three-peat. That is something that is almost impossible to do. Just ask the U.S. women's national team. Three-peating is very hard. Memphis did that. This is their sixth straight NCAA tournament appearance, seventh in the last 8 years. 18-1. They were the number 3 team in the Top Drawer Soccer poll. They were the number 8 team in the United Soccer Coaches poll. Okay? So can somebody at the NCAA please explain to me how the number 3 team in the country or the number 8 team in the country is not one of the 20 best teams in the country, according to your seeding methodology? I'm calling bullshit on that. That's what I'm doing, because that's what it is. Somebody at the NCAA needs to come out and have the balls to explain how an 18-1 team with 4 Power 5 wins is a 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's asinine. That is asinine. Because here I am, Sunday evening, sitting covering the Memphis men's soccer team out at Park Avenue in their conference quarterfinal against USF. And by the way, what a hell of a game that was. That was an absolute blast. They went from absolutely dead in the water, scored 2 goals in the last 4 minutes to advance. Now they get to go on the road and play SMU. So we'll see how that plays out. Coach Mulrooney is doing a really good job. They're shooting for their second straight conference tournament. I believe this would only be the 3rd time they've ever been to the NCAA tournament, and that would be back-to-back years. So no matter how you slice it, soccer at the University of Memphis is going very, very well right now. But we're sitting there thinking, you know what? They might be like, I'm thinking 18-1 with the longest winning streak in the country and a top 10 team. They're going to be at worst a 2 seed, maybe a 3 seed if the selection committee pulls some shady shit. And I'm thinking, multiple NCAA tournament home games. I'm thinking, all the way through, maybe all the way through the quarterfinals, which would be, quite frankly, unprecedented in the history of the University of Memphis as far as doing stuff on campus. They hosted LSU in the first round 2 years ago, and finally that's who they get to play in the first round this year. I don't know how that ended up coming to be. But I allowed my imagination to run wild. I kind of thought that winning a lot of games was important. Apparently it wasn't. What the hell? This is a crock. This is not cool. So not only did they get screwed out of hosting multiple rounds of the NCAA tournament, and to be clear, that wouldn't just mean 4 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many games. That would mean not just U of M games, but if you'll recall, last year the Memphis women's team played in the second round a neutral site game in Fayetteville. They played Mississippi State in the second round in Fayetteville. So that would have allowed, if you think about it, if Memphis is a higher seed, they're hosting other teams at Park Avenue. They're not just hosting U of M v LSU and then U of M v whoever potentially. You could have, in theory, had something like, well, let's just take a look at the bracket. You could have, theoretically, had like Texas A&M versus Colorado, or Notre Dame and Ohio State, or something like that. But apparently, 18-1 and a third straight conference title isn't good enough to merit hosting more than 1 round of the NCAA tournament. A 6 seed, absolutely asinine, absolute egregious screw job by the NCAA. Egregious screw job. I said it. It's asinine. Okay, so not only did they get screwed out of hosting a bunch of Memphis games and potentially other teams, but you want to take a look at the bracket? They didn't just screw Memphis by putting them, by giving them a crap seed. They screwed them with the teams they've got to get past. Like, that's the other part of it. Like, everybody is upset And justifiably so, because look at me, just justifiably upset at the low seed. But take a look at who they've. Let's take a look at this. All right. So hopefully, assuming that Memphis beats LSU in the first round, the second round, they're more than likely going to have to face 3 seed Notre Dame. Notre Dame went 11-3-4 this year, I believe, and was the number 2 team in the ACC, which is probably the premier conference in women's college soccer. It's like what the SEC is in college baseball, and to a slightly lesser extent in college football. That's what the ACC is in women's soccer. Excuse me. It's a powerhouse. I mean, you've got former U.S. women's national team coaches who've won women's World Cups are coaching in the ACC. Okay, it's a powerhouse league in women's soccer. Notre Dame finished second in the ACC. Now, the potentially bright side for Memphis there is that they got knocked out in the first round of the conference tournament. Now, I don't remember who they got. I want to say they got knocked out in the first round by Clemson, who just so happens to be a number one seed in the NCAA tournament. But don't hold me to that. I looked it up, and I might be misremembering, but I do know Notre Dame, very good. Okay, so right off the bat, you got to play an SEC team in the first round. It's at home, and it's an SEC team that 2 years ago you proved quite capable of beat them 3-0. Second round, you're going to have to play Notre Dame, who is a very good ACC team, a very good team from a very good league. Then, assuming you win that, you would potentially, worst case scenario, have to play Arkansas. That's an Arkansas team that put you out of the NCAA tournament last year. And given that Arkansas is the higher seed, you're probably going to have to play them in Fayetteville again. You get past Arkansas in the Sweet 16, you go to the Elite 8. Who do you get to play in the Elite 8? You get to play the number 1 overall seed. You get to play Florida State. Florida State has won 3 national championships in the last 9 seasons. They went to the College Cup semifinals last year, and we saw what happened when Memphis played a team that went to the College Cup semifinals last year. So not only is Memphis screwed out of higher seeding and more favorable matchups, they're screwed out of hosting multiple games on campus, and they are screwed by having to play a bunch of really good, really tough teams. Now, I say all of that. There's no reason that Memphis can't beat those teams. This is a really good, really talented, really accomplished Memphis women's soccer team. And on the program as a whole, they've got a very high standard over there. But I think even by their own lofty standards, this is a really good team. Brooks Monaghan, in the preseason game against Lipscomb after the game, said, I can tell you right now, we're more talented than last year's team that went to the Sweet 16. That's saying something. As that team in conference play last year was, they were going to need to win the conference tournament to make the NCAA tournament, which they did. They're second straight. They've won 3 in a row now. They're 18-1. They've got the longest active winning streak in women's college soccer, and they're a 6th seed. Asinine. Absolutely asinine. Again, I'm calling bullshit on it. But there's no reason they can't. They are more than capable. That's a good coach. That's a good coaching staff, and there's a lot of really talented players. Maya Jones had a hell of a run down in Lakewood Ranch, Florida, in the conference tournament. Katie Bierman came up big several times against SMU. And I do wonder, 2 or 3 of those games in Florida in the conference tournament felt like Memphis could have and maybe should have played better. They got where they needed to go. They got the good results. They won the whole damn thing. But you do have to wonder if the fact that it was 2-1, 2-0, and 2-1 maybe played into the poor seeding and the crappy side of the bracket. I don't know. I mean, because here's the other thing that had occurred to me. If you're 18-1 and a conference regular season and conference tournament champion like Memphis is, and you're a 6th seed, what happens if they drop that game to SMU? Do they just not make the tournament? Like, what the hell? Which might lead to cause for concern for Richard Mulrooney's boys. I think at the end of the day, part of it is that the conference did stink, although SMU is a good team, good program. North Texas, Memphis beat North Texas. It took them a minute, but I'm pretty sure they won that game 2-0 or 3-1 or something like that. But that was when they had to work for it, because I looked it up before the game. North Texas, as a new member of the American Athletic Conference, you look back at their track record in CUSA, every year between 2011 and 2019, they won either the conference regular season or the conference tournament title, or both. One of those two. They won every single year. So that's a quality addition, and to me, a quality win for Memphis. I don't know really what else to say other than let's be real. This was an egregious screw job. I mean, they were 1 goal away. They were 1 goal away from being unbeaten and 2 goals away from being 19-0, from having a perfect record. Like they're this far away from not being able to be any better in the win-loss column, and they're a 6th seed. Am I to understand that had they gone 19 wins, 0 losses, and 0 draws, what would they have been, a 5 seed? Asinine. Absolutely asinine. But you know what? They're, based on what I saw, I was unable to be at the selection show watch party. I know there were several members of the local media that were there, and good for them for that. And I'm sure the team appreciated that. But I lost my train of thought. I'm so frustrated with this. I completely forgot where I was going, and I'm sorry for that. This doesn't really happen. This happen. I've noticed this happening to me a lot in my life, where I'll just start a conversation and get halfway down the road and forget my destination, as far as conversation points. But this doesn't really normally happen to me when I'm doing these. But it's just asinine. I don't understand. I just don't. How this team is so consistently good for so long, and this year they only gave up like 8 goals the whole season. I mean, it was probably fewer than that. I mean, there was at one point they were outscoring opponents like 56-4 or something, just otherworldly absurd, is how dominant they were. I mean, like, you can't get much better than this team this year, purely on a win-loss basis. And they're a 6th seed. That I don't understand it. Like, somebody have the balls at the NCAA to come out and explain to me how this is even possible. Because quite frankly, this is a crock. I don't buy it. I do not buy that there are 20 teams in this country that are better than the University of Memphis women's team. I don't buy that, and I can't buy that. You know how I know that there aren't 20? By the NCAA's own logic, there are not 20 teams better than the University of Memphis women's team. They put what it was like the not the power rankings, but like the bracketology, like whatever college soccer's version of bracketology. It had them as like a 4 seed, or maybe they were even the number 4 team in the country. It's something like that. Whatever it was, it's a hell of a lot better than being a 6 seed. So, yes, this was an outright screw job. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of in 2014, on the men's basketball tournament. I believe it was 2014. Yes, it was, because University of Louisville was the reigning national champions, which now has an asterisk. And they went like 32-4. And they were a 4 seed, which was asinine. But you looked at it and you go, well, that's a really good team. Who is seeded higher than them that they're trying to screw over? And it was Wichita. That was the year Wichita State was undefeated. So they made Wichita State undefeated, but they set it up to where they made Wichita State a 1 seed, but they had it set up to where Wichita State in the second round was going to have to play Kentucky. If they beat Kentucky, they were going to have to play the reigning national champions, Louisville. If they beat Louisville, they were going to have to play the reigning national runners-up in Michigan. So they had a murderer's row in Wichita State was a non-power team. They were an inconvenience for the NCAA selection committee. Said, all right, you know what? You won a lot of games, but we don't think you're all that good. You get to play Kentucky, you get to play Louisville, you get to play Michigan. Those are all three really good basketball programs. I feel like that's what they've done to Memphis here. That's what the NCAA has done to Memphis there. You know what? You think you've got the longest winning streak in the country? You think you're good because you're 18-1? Go play LSU. Go play Notre Dame. Go play Arkansas that beat you last year. Go play the reigning national, semifinalists and 3-time national champions in the last 9 years. We'll see how tough you think you are. That's what they're doing here. I guarantee it. Memphis women's soccer was an inconvenience for them, and they couldn't stand that one of the sacred programs was not this team, and so they are punishing Memphis. That's what they're doing. And if you think otherwise, if you're at the NCAA, I know people in positions of authority at various organizations around town watch these episodes of this show. So maybe somebody at the NCAA is watching. And if you are, rationalize it. Tell me otherwise. You can't do it. Scumbags. You're almost as big as scumbags as those people in Detroit. I can't go quite that far. But the selection committee is a bunch of scumbags this year. How much better would Memphis have to have been? There's only so much more. They can't go much farther up. 18-1. And they're a 6th seed. Asinine. All right, I just had to get that off my chest. I'm sure there's a lot of other fans out there that were quite upset with this. So that's, we can't change it at this point. Looking at it on the Tigers website, they do not have the official date and time and ticketing announced just quite yet. On the website, it says either Friday or Sunday. I am personally probably hoping for Sunday. I would like to not have to. I guess it depends on what the weather's like each of those those 2 days. But you got the Tiger football. The Tiger football's on the road against Charlotte, I want to say, on Saturday. So even if you were to play Saturday, you wouldn't, there wouldn't be a lot of conflict. But Friday or Sunday is what it's looking like. Don't know what time. Don't know. 2 years ago, it was a Sunday afternoon at like 2:00. Tickets were $10. There's no reason we can't match the 1,300 people that were there 2 years ago against the same team, I might add. So everybody should make the effort to get out there and support this team. They've been really good for a very long time. And I think it would be absolutely fantastic if you could, because 2 years ago it was like 1,309, which is a track and soccer stadium record. I think we can do better this time. I mean, it was a full house. Don't get me wrong. It was a great crowd 2 years ago. It can be better this time. Excuse me. Memphis is more soccer town now than it was 2 years ago because 901 FC has been in the playoffs for 3 straight years. And you've got the men's and the women's teams at the U of M doing very, very, very well. So get out and support them. Follow the 901 Soccer Podcast. I will be posting it there if and when information becomes available. I will definitely be relaying it along. So I think that's going to do it here tonight. Just, short and not so sweet. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, I'm your host, Lawrence Dockery. Find me on Twitter at LDoc93. Find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Twitter at 901 Soccer Pod. Find the 901 Soccer Podcast on Facebook, 901 Soccer. Find Bluff City Media on Twitter at BluffCity_media. Bluff City Media on Facebook, Bluff City Media. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Go over to the Bluff City Media website, bluffcitymedia.co. Become an insider and a subscriber and read all the content. That's not just Memphis women's soccer or men's soccer. It's 901 FC, Tiger football, Grizzlies, Tiger basketball, Tiger women's basketball, Redbirds, Showboats. I think the only thing that we don't do is high school sports. And at some point, I'm sure we'll get into that. A lot of good stuff going on at Bluff City Media. And if you aren't subscribed and an insider, you are missing out. I highly recommend it. This is a 10 out of 10. You will enjoy it. 10 out of 10. First, I'm giving you a personal guarantee that you will enjoy it. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and just be on the lookout for when those game times get announced.